everybody. It's Tim Constantine from the Washington Times. Happy New Year to you. Joining me as he did throughout 2024 for America, it's David Bozell. Hi, David.
Hey Tim, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Happy New Year to you. Did you have a nice holiday season?
We did. Congratulations to the both of us. We picked the presidential election correctly,
Indeed, we did.
and so we are just like the truth sayers, all truth sayers.
Well, I want to talk about two things today. One, the speaker, the very first thing that happens in the new year, the Congress chooses a speaker. And during the initial vote for Mike Johnson, he needed every single vote except one from the Republicans because the margin is so tight. You know, as the roll call vote went on, three people voted for somebody else. I want Jim Jordan. They want someone other than that. And so some of the news agencies immediately went out and said, Johnson loses first ballot. Except in the most clever thing I've seen since the days of Robert Byrd in the Senate, they simply didn't close the vote. And then Donald Trump got on the horn with two out of those three members and said, all right, it's time. Are we working together or not this year? Do you want to mess all this up? We got a lot of momentum. And they said, okay. And they came back and they changed their vote. So the headline really is Speaker wins on first ballot. Your thoughts?
Didn't see. Well, first off, I mean, it's one of the things that the press, you would think that they would know that the House can keep a vote open, can keep any vote open.
Right.
And it's been that way forever. So you would think that some of these guys that report from Capitol Hill would know that. But even some of our pals kind of got that one wrong. So yeah, Mike Johnson holds that vote open. Didn't seem like the opposition to Mike was particularly well organized. You could see that on the C-SPAN cameras. They weren't really sure if they should vote for someone else or abstain for the first round. At the end of the day, I think everyone recognizes that Mike Johnson is an honest guy. He's going to tell you straight up if he thinks he can pass something or not. Look, at the end of the day, 90% of these guys aren't honest. I'll take honesty in this gig. And I think Mike Johnson deserves the opportunity with a short leash and the opportunity to run this House in coordination with the Republican Senate, in coordination with the Republican White House.
Well, he clearly has a great relationship with President Trump. And so now that the Republican Senate is taking over, there's an opportunity to do some things here. The far right, who I agree with at least half the time, probably more, but the far right better not mess it up. They could interfere in an opportunity to achieve a lot of things, especially in these first 100 days, which is where I want to go next. The very first thing when a new president comes in, and Trump isn't new, but he's new again, is day one. There's a slew of executive orders and a few things that have been voted on that he signs into law immediately, kind of builds that momentum. And then that first 100 days, they try to achieve a lot of things while everybody is excited. What do you see on day one that are the top priorities for Donald Trump to take care of? January 20th, 2 o'clock, what is it he's signing?
I think one of the first things he does is he declares a national emergency at the border. That'll give him the opportunity to send more federal troops down there, put more pressure on Mexico to clean up its side of the border. And he's been talking about doing that for the entire campaign. Number two, I think he reverses a slew of Biden executive orders in the energy sector space, the border security space. Remain in Mexico is another one, and just all manner of different regulatory rollbacks. Three, I think you might see kind of a Simpson Bowles style commission set up. In my heart of hearts, I'm sure the Trump administration does not want a government commission per se, but to basically direct every federal agency to review itself in a short matter of time for all manner of different cost-cutting measures and reforms.
On that line, with DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, it's a temporary place. It's got Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy in charge. Are they actually going to be able to accomplish anything? I think of Musk going in and cutting 80% of the employees at Twitter, now X, and everybody going, he'll never be, he's going to ruin this. And yet somehow it's moving right along now.
Yeah.
And so do you think that can happen in the public sector? Can they go in and go, wow, these buildings are empty, these employees don't even show up, and cut the stuff, or will it just end up being another report on a shelf somewhere?
No, yeah, no, I am very optimistic. The difference between this effort and previous and decades worth of conservative movement, the conservative movement trying to cut government, is that these guys hold the biggest megaphones that man ever created. Elon Musk has 210 million some odd followers just on his platform alone. These are the types of, he can get a message out there that cuts through every news operation. And so if you take the results from a commission and say, well, this is all the stuff that we could cut, and it wouldn't take long for Elon and Vivek and their teams to just build up the social media momentum. One of the things I think that Trump 2.0 has realized is that they can get a lot of things done if they have social media popularity on their side, if they have social media advocacy, pushing and rowing in their direction. So it's just not to have those types of allies who know what they're doing and with their digital tools is a tremendous advantage that Trump 1.0 or even the Bush administrations and the Reagan administrations they didn't have. They had to work through the liberal media to get their point across. And their message about cutting government would look like filet mignon on the front end and come out as cheap sausage at the back end. This is going to be a lot different, and the opportunity is right there for them for the taking.
The thing I got a big kick out of over these last few weeks is the squealing on the left. They're saying, well, it's not fair. Elon Musk is allowing this or allowing that, or he's doing such and such on X, and that isn't fair. And I'm thinking, where were those same people when Twitter prohibited Donald Trump from even speaking? He couldn't type a single word on there. When
right.
None of those free speech advocates that are now worried about X seemed to have any availability 8 years ago. It was crazy stuff.
The argument doesn't really make much sense. What, Elon's not allowed to have an opinion about the regulatory environment, about spending bills? He's not a paid participant in the government in this operation, which is perfect. And so this is where I think the commission might be helpful. The commission self-identifies all the waste within the federal government. Elon takes his, and this is why the left gets so ticked off about what Zuckerberg just did at Facebook and how Elon, to his credit, has just broken down the censorship era that we lived in. Now we can get these messages across, and the federal government will basically self-identify all of its waste for them. So I think it's just going to be a tremendous opportunity. The other thing, a couple of things. Obviously, there's going to be the pardoning of the J6ers that'll happen on day one, and Schedule F, which is just bureaucratic nuance, but something that they talked about. They had the executive order at the end of Trump 1.0. It reclassifies all these civil servants, the so-called deep state. I think Schedule F gets installed almost immediately, and you'll have a reclassification of the entire federal apparatus, and it'll enable the president to more easily fire these guys, the ones who especially don't report to work.
Final question. I mentioned just a couple of minutes ago that the president got on the phone with 2 out of the 3 members who were not supporting Mike Johnson and said, hey, we got an agenda to keep here. Let's not have a distraction. Let's move straight forward. My question for you is, what's up with Greenland and Panama? Is that not a distraction, or what is the strategy? What's the end game there? Because it seems like that has the potential to be a distraction that derails some of the domestic things.
I just saw Sean Spicer do his podcast with a fellow who was in the Trump administration or working within the Trump administration 1.0. And he said that the Greenland acquisition was a lot closer to reality than people realized in Trump 1.0. I would not be surprised if Greenland was acquired on day one. And Trump Jr. has gone out there. They're obviously planning for an inauguration. These guys just don't stop. And I think it makes strategic sense to acquire Greenland. It's going to be up to, I suppose, Denmark if they want to dance with us. Panama seems probably the more strategic importance, but you could just tell with the president-elect, that's one of these issues that ticks him off, that Jimmy Carter gave Panama away so easily and so cheaply in the late 70s. And so I think he wants to make it a part of his legacy. I think he wants expansion, American expansion, to be a part of his legacy when he leaves office in 2028.
Before we go, I'll tell you what I think we're going to see on day one, and that is Hamas releasing hostages. I think it's going to
Yep.
be a la Reagan with the Iran hostages. That's going to be a huge positive. That's going to be a great momentum builder from, hour one is if on January 20th hostages are released. Trump takes a lot out of the Reagan playbook. I think if he can accomplish that one, it sets him up to do a lot in the first 100 days
Right.
that he's almost immune to criticism on. So,
Right.
so
Right.
be it. You and I will be back soon. We'll see how all this unfolds. Stay warm in the meantime. David Bozell for America. I'm Tim Constantine. Thanks for joining us.